What's going on, guys? It's your boy Hokage Puya, and we're back. Shout out to my AFC guys that watched my video, my Asian football fans. We're back with round 3 World Cup qualifying AFC edition, and we have some big games. These are the last 2 official games of round 3. We will have 2 teams from all 3 round 3 groups confirmed to automatically qualify for World Cup 2026 next year in North America, and we will also have the playoff matches from each group confirmed to see which teams will play each other for those final 3 spots from Asia, from the AFC, from the Asian Confederation for World Cup 2026 in North America. Lots of high stakes. We got a lot to talk about. Some teams have already been confirmed their places for the World Cup next year, but that does not mean that there is not a lot to play for. There is a lot to play for a lot of teams here. Qatar, Saudi, Indonesia, Jordan, UAE. A lot of teams here have a lot to play for, and a lot of teams that have not been to a World Cup ever or have not been to a World Cup in decades have a huge opportunity to get themselves and get their country to their first World Cup ever. So huge games, big stakes, a lot to play for a lot of these teams in the AFC. You know how we always do, guys. Let me get my beautiful Google Slides that we all love. And like I always do it, up and coming games to the left and how the table stands right now below us before these 2 matches are played. We're going to go through each group, going to break it down. Some groups more than others, but let's start with Group A, or the first group of round 3 qualifying. The group containing, Iran, Uzbekistan, UAE, Qatar, Kyrgyzstan, and North Korea. Now, Iran have already booked their place in the World Cup. It's done. They're on 20 points. They are confirmed to finish in the top 2. So Iran here, you could see Iran go experimental in these games. I don't know if they go full strength and try to win these games. I'm not sure, but this might be an opportunity for, you see that big game right there, Qatar, to get points against Iran if Iran goes experimental, if Iran decides to take things lightly and rest players that have just played long seasons in Europe in their squad. But we'll break down that Qatar and Iran game in just a bit. Let's start with the first game of this group to be played. I think it's on Thursday, right? Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. UAE versus Uzbekistan. Big game. Big game. This is one of these games in these rounds where this is going to be fierce. Now, Uzbekistan, as you see below in the table, they're in second place on 17 points. UAE third place with 13 points. Why is this such a big game? Well, Uzbekistan here, they'll be the team that does not have to go out and really attack UAE. It's UAE that has to go out there and try to beat Uzbekistan up, make them uncomfortable, and try to win the game. We already know Uzbekistan, especially these days, very hard team to beat. Very hard team to beat. You have to have a very good day to truly beat these Uzbekistan guys because they defend really well and they'll just want to counter you the whole time. They're a very rugged and tough team. UAE is going to have to take the game to them because if they win this game, get those 3 points, UAE, they will be on 16 points and Uzbekistan will be on 17 points. And all of a sudden, those last games for UAE and Kyrgyzstan, for the UAE and Uzbekistan, difficult games. A difficult game for Uzbekistan and a slightly easier game for the UAE away to Kyrgyzstan. So that's why UAE here, if they get a win, Uzbeks will be sweating. They will be shitting their pants because all of a sudden their comfortable 4-point lead over UAE in second place, automatic qualification to their first World Cup ever, is at huge risk because a UAE win here against Uzbekistan will put them on 16 points, will put them 1 point behind Uzbekistan. And UAE's next game will be against Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan's next game will be at home playing a Qatar team that is trying to fight for those playoff spots or potentially capitalize and maybe sneak into the top 2, which is very unlikely for Qatar. They were horrible this round of qualifying. I can guarantee you Qatar will have to play the playoff. they will have to play the playoffs. So it'll be a tough game for Uzbekistan. So Uzbekistan, huge game for them. They cannot just relax against the UAE. They need to get the job done. At least a draw. Uzbeks need against the UAE. But the UAE, on the other hand, they need to win. They cannot lose and they cannot draw. UAE needs to win this game against Uzbekistan. Next game, one of these games no one really cares about. I mean, there are some stakes here for Kyrgyzstan. North Korea is done. Their qualifying is over. They already did a crazy good job getting to round 3 qualifying. I still don't get how North Korea has made it this far, but they're here. They're on 2 points. Kyrgyzstan, on the other hand, on 6 points, and they want to get the win here against North Korea. Obviously, it won't actually be played in North Korea. I didn't check the location of this game, but it's not going to be in North Korea. We know the reasons why. Hashtag dictatorship, hashtag Kim Jong-un. Kyrgyzstan wants to get this win because just like UAE, if they get this win and add 3 points, go up to 9 points, they can be a point away from Qatar and try to steal a 4th place spot and put themselves in a playoff position to potentially go to their first World Cup ever. They need those 3 points against North Korea. Anything less than 3 points against North Korea, Kyrgyzstan's qualifying is over. Nothing will help them in the final game against the UAE because Qatar will be playing Iran. The reason why this is good for Kyrgyzstan is because Qatar, let's be honest, outside of Asia Cup, Iran always destroys Qatar. Iran will beat Qatar in this game. I'm positive about this. And when Iran beat Qatar and Kyrgyzstan, if they get those 3 points against North Korea that they need to get, it must be a win. Cannot be a draw. Just like in the UAE Uzbekistan game, just like UAE, Kyrgyzstan cannot draw. The draw isn't good enough. They need to get 3 points because then that'll put them 1 point behind Qatar if Qatar loses to Iran, which is very likely. Which is very, very likely. And obviously, the last game for the first game, Iran versus Qatar. Obviously, Qatar will try to make it tough on them. They want to get the win here to keep that 4-point distance between them and Kyrgyzstan because if they beat Iran, it doesn't matter what Kyrgyzstan does. If Kyrgyzstan wins, it doesn't matter because they'll still maintain the 4-point gap that they have over Kyrgyzstan, and they'll officially at least be in the playoff spots for round 3 qualifying. So Qatar has a lot to play for here, and maybe Iran will take it light. I don't know. Iran, I feel like against a team like Qatar, they won't take it light, even when they're already qualified for the World Cup, largely because Qatar has gotten the best of them, especially in that last Asia Cup. They need to get their frustrations out still for that loss, and they just want to beat Qatar every single time. The reigning Asian Cup champions. They want to beat them, so it's going to be a tough game for Qatar. And we get to those final 3 games in this group, and this is where, depending on what happens in those first games, all of these can be massive, massive games. Like I said, if the UAE and if Kyrgyzstan both win, and if Qatar loses to Iran at home, all of a sudden these 2 games right here, this game doesn't matter. This game won't matter. These 2 games right here, Kyrgyzstan and UAE and Uzbekistan versus Qatar, will be massive because Kyrgyzstan will be fighting to beat the UAE to potentially get into the playoff spots. UAE will be fighting to beat Kyrgyzstan to potentially jump over Uzbekistan and get second place in automatic qualification for World Cup 2026. And then Uzbekistan will be fighting for their lives to try and save their second place spot if they were to lose the first game against UAE against Qatar, a team who is fighting to try get also sneak in to the top 2 automatic qualification positions. So interesting storylines here in Group A. It really is just 2 through 5. Uzbekistan, UAE, Qatar, and Kyrgyzstan. Depending on how they perform in these first games, the final day of AFC qualifying can be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. As for the other 2 teams, Iran, like I said, they already qualified for the World Cup. They're in. They're in. They just want to be Qatar, and I guarantee you they will barely take the North Korea game seriously. They'll be very experimental in this North Korea game, give guys that haven't played much or give people their international debuts to get new looks in on the team. And yeah, North Korea has no chance. Their qualifying is done. So a lot happening here from 2nd to 5th place in Group A. If I were to predict what happens, although I outlined a very crazy scenario where a lot can happen in this group, if I'm being honest, it's very hard to beat Uzbekistan. Yes, the UAE will be at home against Uzbekistan, but I just don't think they have the strength to beat Uzbekistan. Can they get a draw? Yes. And with the stakes elevated, maybe they'll rise to the occasion, but I don't think they will win against Uzbekistan. And then I think with that with that happening, I think Kyrgyzstan beats North Korea, and I think Qatar loses to Iran. And so, if the UAE fails to beat Uzbekistan, then you're really looking at Kyrgyzstan and Qatar fighting for that fourth place spot in to get that playoff spot, and try to go to the World Cup. So we won't know. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens. But you know, it's the last games, and like I said at the beginning of the video, still so much to play for. A lot of drama is going to happen, you guys. It's going down this week. It's going down in AFC. And like I say, guys, it's the wild, wild west in the AFC. People sleep on the AFC, but us Asian fans know, man. The AFC is where it's at. Shit is going to go down this week. Best of luck to everyone in this group and all the rest of the groups as well. Next group, Group B. As Group B stands, remember, below me right here, South Korea is in first with 16 points. You have Jordan, second place at 13 points. You have Iraq with 12 points, Oman with 10 points in fourth place, and then you have Palestine with 6 points in fifth place, and Kuwait with 5 points in sixth place. So my gut tells me South Korea. Actually, we'll get to that. Let's just look at the games here. So again, probably more than in Group A, a ton to play for here. Because technically, if South Korea loses both games, they can drop out of the automatic qualification spots. And we know South Korea, look at here, 4 wins, 4 draws. That is for South Korea standards, this has been a horrible round 3 qualifying. Now, they're still in first, but you never know what happens because look at these South Korea games. Look at the first South Korea game specifically, and we'll get into that. So Oman versus Jordan, first game now. Oman got some surprising results recently, and they still find themselves on 10 points and a very realistic fighting chance for second place. So Oman here, they're going all out. There is real hope for Oman to get to their first World Cup. Their very first World Cup. There is a lot to play for here for Oman. Obviously, they're playing Jordan, the breakthrough side in Asia since the Asia Cup last year in January 2024. Very attacking team, very young, kind of bringing a different look, a different kind of play to Asia that we haven't seen in a while. They have 13 points. They can't afford to lose. Oman, if they want to get that automatic qualification spot, they can't afford to lose. And Jordan, if they want to keep their strength and keep that strong position they have in second place on 13 points, they can't afford to lose. So, you guys, right away, this first game in Group B, look out. Look out because there is a lot to play for. And this is why I love the World Cup expansion, by the way. And I think I say it every time. This is why I loved this World Cup expansion to 48 teams, because it increases the stakes in a lot of the other World Cup qualifiers, especially in Africa, especially in the AFC in Asia. It has increased the stakes. Teams that usually never had a chance in previous final qualifying rounds in AFC now have on the final match days massive opportunities to actually qualify, or at least be in the playoffs to qualify for the World Cup. So look out here. This is a big boy matchup, Oman versus Jordan. Next game, big boy matchup. We're talking big boy matchups, you guys. Big boy match. Big boy matchup right here. Iraq versus South Korea. Obviously, Iraq last time out had some disappointing results. Iraq was very disappointing a couple months ago in the last qualifying games, and they've put themselves in a position where they are on 12 points in third place. They are on 12 points on third place behind Jordan now in the qualifying. Iraq Like again, in the Oman and Jordan game, if they really want to push for automatic qualification, they need a result against South Korea. Now, looking at it from the South Korean perspective, we're looking at this from the South. If we look at this from the South Korean perspective, sure, South Korea is on 16 points, and they can maybe afford to lose or drop points. First of all, South Korea hasn't lost yet, but they've come very close to losing in qualifying after 8 games. 4 wins, 4 draws. You're you're testing your luck at this point, South Korea. Huge game against Iraq, a team desperate for a win here. South Korea can afford to lose because their next game you see down here is against Kuwait, the bottom team here. Kuwait really has no chance at even making to the playoffs. So they're unless Oman loses both games, they're kind of fighting for scraps at the moment. So South Korea can afford to lose. But if you're a South Korean player, Son, Hwang Yi-chan, Kang In Lee, who just won the Champions League, so congratulations. Uh, you're looking at this game and you'd rather just secure your qualification here and relax in this final game against Kuwait. That's what you want as a South Korean fan, as a South Korean player, anyone who's South Korean. You just want to get the dirty work and hard work done against Iraq. So although you can afford to lose, you don't want to lose. So this right here, this is like, an Asia Cup semifinal matchup. Like this is the level you should expect from this game, the intensity you should expect from this game because again, like I said in the beginning of the video, still so much to play for. And we're in the final 2 games of round 3 qualifying, still so much to play for so many teams. I'm gonna definitely try to tune in for this game, Iraq versus South Korea. In fact, that Iran game is at the same time. Bro, I might prioritize the Iraq South Korea game when I go to watch because this is huge. And then finally, the 2 bottom teams of this group playing in the first match for this in the first match is Kuwait versus Palestine. Really here, both teams are kind of fighting for scraps. Palestine and Kuwait, if either of them win, they keep that small chance alive that they can get into the playoff positions to qualify for the World Cup. But for Kuwait and Palestine, whichever team wins here, if Kuwait and Palestine draw, they're done. They're done. Like if Kuwait and Palestine hit a draw on each other, it's over. Either of these teams needs to win this game. So there's still a lot to play for here, but they're really playing to keep their chances alive by just a very small amount. The only way Kuwait or Palestine can get into that 4th spot is banking on Oman losing both games. Now, for Palestine here, they control their own destiny more. Why? Because if they beat Kuwait, then all of a sudden they have a 4th place match against Oman. Say Oman loses to Jordan, all of a sudden you have Palestine Oman showdown to get the 4th spot and go to playoffs. So this right here can be a huge game, but Palestine is probably the team that controls their own destiny the most here against Kuwait. If Kuwait wins, they still have to play South Korea and they have to they have to rely on Palestine to beat Oman. But if Palestine wins, it's all in their power. It's all in their power if Oman lose to Jordan. So interesting dynamic going on there. And then South Korea in the second game playing Kuwait, like I just said, although South Korea can afford to lose to Iraq, they'd much rather get that win, get a result there, and relax in this game, no pressure. So, South Korea with that game there with Kuwait, and then this right here, Jordan, Iraq. I mean, no matter how these first 3 games go, Jordan, Iraq, whichever way it shapes up, is going to have a lot of stakes on the line, especially, dude, especially if both Jordan and Iraq win, you are then looking at a Jordan Iraq clash for second place, automatic qualification for the World Cup. It does not get any bigger than that, guys. It does not get any bigger than that in qualifying. It's basically a little final, a very little final right there. So, and chances are that could happen. Iraq beating South Korea, Jordan beating Oman, second place match to determine who automatically qualifies. Oh my God. You want to be tuned in for this right here. You want to be watching this game, watch it live, keep up with the scoreline, whatever. You want to keep your eyes on this game. This will be a huge one. And then like I said before, Palestine, Oman. Palestine needs to beat Kuwait and bank on Oman losing to Jordan to really have a huge shot here for securing fourth place against Oman. And then obviously Oman, if they lose that game to Jordan, will be fighting to keep that fourth position against Palestine. So again, you guys, if you could already tell, the dynamics of these groups are very interesting. A lot of results at the in such a late stage of qualifying are still relying on each other. You know, it's interesting. This is why I love qualifying. I love the journey to the World Cup because all the storylines, all the matchups, all the stakes at play. I love this game, bro. I live for this. I live for this stuff. So I'm hyped. I'm hyped for Group B. Group B was kind of a group I was sleeping on this for most of qualifying because mostly because I'm focused a lot on Group A personally with Iran, and then Group C, keeping tabs on Japan and seeing how close Group C was. I kind of slept on Group B a little, but now the final two games for Group B are going to be crazy. A lot is going to go down. You guys, a lot can change here in this group. Right now, Korea, the way it stands, after two games, you could potentially see, although it's kind of unlikely, South Korea in the playoff spots, Jordan and Iraq finishing top two, Palestine finishing fourth. That's a possibility. There are chances there. It's not impossible. So, Group B, exciting as a neutral. I'm sure if you're from Oman, from Jordan, if you're Iraqi, if you're South Korean, Palestinian, if you're from Kuwait, I'm sure you're highly stressed. But you guys, my boys Iran, we're already qualified, so I could really enjoy, and that's what I like about this. Iran is already qualified. I can fully enjoy all the drama that's about to go down in the next two games for all of these groups. I could fully just sit back, legs up, and just be like, enjoy it. No little stress in the back of my mind. So, shout out to the teams in Group B. A lot to play for, and good luck. Group C, another crazy group this qualifying season. Another crazy group. Like, obviously, Japan has smoked this group. 20 points, 22 goal difference, 24 goals, 24 goals scored, only 2 conceded. Compare that to the other first place teams. You have South Korea on 16 points, 14 goals, 7 conceded, 7 goal difference, and then Iran 16 goals scored, 7 goals conceded, 9 goal difference, 20 points. Then you have Japan also on 20 points, but with 24 goals scored, 2 conceded, 22 goal difference. Crazy. Japan went crazy. So yeah, Japan is also, along with Iran, the two Asia teams that are qualified fully for the next World Cup. So Japan here in these games can go experimental, can take it light, not take it too seriously, but they still have some big games. And I say big games because the teams they're playing still have a lot to play for. Because you guys look at second, even to last place. It's not over for China. It's not over for China and Bahrain in fifth and sixth place, both on 6 points. You have Australia on 13, Saudi on 10, Indonesia after a bumpy up and down qualifying, going into these final two games, still on 9 points, still has a chance for third or second place in the group. And then you have Bahrain and China, who both got surprising results throughout round 3 qualifying, still in the battle for the playoff positions. So, again, a lot to play for. And I'd say this group has the most to play for because in the other groups, I really, North Korea has no chance, and I'm really not confident in Kuwait doing anything and coming up with the results to make a surprise run for fourth place. But here, with the results we've seen, China with 2 wins, I won't be surprised if China do something. I won't be surprised if Bahrain does something. I won't be surprised. So let's see what happens. But let's break these games on Australia. First game for this group, Australia versus Japan. Australia really, it's tough because, you would think Japan would want to rest. They won't take it too seriously. But it's still a massive game against Australia. So Japan is they're not gonna pull up and play a C team. They're gonna go and try to win this game. And Australia at home, you know, if they lose this game, it's not the end of the world, but then they'd have a colossal matchup with Saudi Arabia the next game. But Australia here, they really want to get at least a draw. They really, really, really want at least a draw. Ideally, a win. A draw, fine. At least you get in a point. Completely need to avoid a loss. And honestly, I'm going to be honest. Actually, I'm going to say this. Australia need to completely avoid a draw. Completely avoid a draw because say Saudi wins. Well, then, a draw is only the point gap is now down to one. You'll be on 14 points and Saudi will be on 13 points, breathing down your neck with a colossal matchup with the Saudis in the last game. So Australia, they need to go all out here. And it's tough for them because a lot of Japanese players, guys, are coming in on form. And Japan is always strong. We saw Moriyasu was able to play a B team earlier in the qualifying and win like 7-0 with his B team. So Australia are really the team that need this win more than Japan, obviously, who's already qualified. So huge, huge for Australia. It's unfortunate. I think I might. The game is at 4:10 a.m. my time, so you guys. I work, so I probably will have to wake up and see how the result of this game plays out. But when I wake up that morning on Thursday, I am rushing to this. This is one of the scorelines I'm rushing to see what the hell happened, because a lot to play for Australia to make their lives a little easier for that final game. Then we have big game right here. I've been talking to you Indonesian fans out there. You guys have been showing my channel some love. You've been showing these qualifying videos some love. Huge game for Indonesia. You guys have already slipped up against the Bahrains and China's against Bahrain and China in this group. You've already made your life difficult with the results you've had in these games. Indonesia, after some stronger results last time out in their two games, should be coming in with some confidence here and should be the favorites to beat China. They're at home. The home crowd will be out there cheering them on. Anything they can do, the fans will try anything they could do to give Indonesia that competitive advantage over China. So a win here with Indonesia, another 3 points, for sure a win for Indonesia here will guarantee them that they will at least be in the playoffs. So that would be huge for Indonesia. And if they win, they'll really want to be watching that Bahrain-Saudi game and hoping Bahrain can get a draw against Saudi, can cause Saudi to drop points. Again, another group, another scenario all around this group where some teams are depending on other results to help them out. Results depending on results for how this group is really going to play out. You could see massive shifts here from second to sixth place in this group. So Indonesia, big game against China. I was not a fan. I made a video. I was not a fan of Clivert coming into coach. I was not a fan of Shinte getting sacked while in the middle of qualifying. I was not a fan of it with someone who is not experienced in the AFC and let alone experienced in international football. But Clivert got Indonesia to bounce back in the last two games, and now with a huge game against China, they need to win. They need to win if they want to keep the dream of top two alive. If they win, they confirm that playoff spot. But you guys, the points gap between Indonesia and China here is 3. Now, China's goal difference is a little difficult for them, but if they win, if China wins, guys, right, they will be on 9 points. And look at that matchup they have after Indonesia. They have a game where they could realistically win against Bahrain. So it's not going to be easy, Indonesia, because you got the Chinese coming. And if China wins both games here, I guarantee you everything will work its way out and China will enter into that top 4 and be able to play in that playoff to go to the freaking World Cup China. So I'm sure Indonesia fans, I think a lot of people would say based on how strong your squad is and everything and how young it is, you should be China. But this game is 50-50 for me. Indonesia already slipped up against China before. Big game, 50-50 matchup, Indonesia versus China. I honestly have no idea how this game, Indonesia versus China, is going to go. I have zero clue. I have no idea. I have an idea of Australia, Japan. I really think Japan will end up like getting the win there against Australia, or at least a draw. Indonesia, China, all bets off. I have no clue. You guys, I have no clue. Ferdinand needs to do something, whatever. Marcelin, I don't know. I don't know, guys. So Indonesia, China, big game. And then again, Bahrain, Saudi. Saudi needs to get the win to close the gap to Australia for that automatic qualification. They'll want to avoid the playoff spot. With Irvinard returning, their performances didn't necessarily improve like I thought they would improve when he came back. Their last two games, I wasn't too impressed. I looked at those games and I'm like, really? You did a manager change in the middle of qualifying for these kinds of performances? Now, who knows? When Kluivert came for Indonesia, the first two games were not good at all. You're thinking what happened, and then the next two games after Kluivert was more experienced with the team and could get his ideas across more, the Indonesian performances were better. So maybe this time around, for Bernard in a second stint with Saudi, things will click more and they'll look stronger. But they better hope things look stronger, because Bahrain, their goal difference is not as bad as China's. Bahrain, they're in the same position as Indonesia. If they could get a win, then they control their destiny to beat China to get into the playoff positions. So, this is not going to be a walk in the park. In other years, guys, don't get me wrong. In other years, 2022 qualifying, 2018 qualifying, 20 whatever. In those qualifying years, I would have sat here and told you, no, whatever is going on with the Saudi coach or whatever's going on with the squad, Saudi will beat Bahrain. I'm confident in it. Going off the last 7-8 years of performance, but this time around, with everything that went on with the Saudi team, how underwhelming they've been throughout all of qualifying, this is not a foregone conclusion Saudi Arabia win. This is not a foregone conclusion Saudi win. Bahrain will be coming. They want the smoke. They're there for the smoke. They're there to fight. They want to get into the playoffs. So big game there. And, Bahrain, if they win this game, let's go to that China-Bahrain game. If Bahrain and China, they want to win those games, they control their destiny in the final game against China. They control it. And when it comes to qualifying, qualifying can be so unpredictable. Qualifying can be so chaotic. If you could just control an ounce of your destiny more, if you could be in control just a little bit more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% more, that really boosts your chances of qualifying, of improving your performances and your position in the table. So a lot to play for there. And then you got Saudi versus Australia. I mean, I think regardless of what happens in Saudi and Australia's game, this is still going to be a game where Saudi will likely be trying to win at their absolute hardest to try and trump Australia and get into that automatic qualifying position in second. And then you'll have Australia, no matter what happens in that Japan game, fighting to keep that second place position and automatically qualify. So you're looking at the Saudi-Australia game, a classic heavyweight matchup. These two, so much history between them in previous qualifying campaigns. Again, with Saudi and Australia, with how unpredictable they've been in this qualifying, this is another game where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no clue. And in fact, it's probably this Group C, where for most of these games outside of Japan's games, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to happen here. So Saudi, Australia, huge game, no clue. They'll be fighting for second place most likely. And then you got Japan at home, Indonesia. Now, this is why Indonesia winning is so crucial. Because first, if Indonesia wins that game against China, they will all but confirm at least the playoff position. But if they could win, take some momentum, and play Japan. Now, like I said, Japan played their B team and won 7-0 during this qualifying. Right? That happened. But Indonesia will be hoping Japan plays their B team this day. Because I'm sorry, no disrespect to Indonesia and their team and Indonesian fans. Even if Japan plays their A team, it does not matter how good you are on the day. I know it's football; anyone can win on any given day. If Japan plays their best team, their starting 11, their strongest squad possible in front of their home fans, it's gonna be damn near impossible to beat them with how good they are. But Indonesia, by winning and Japan being in a comfortable position and already qualified for the World Cup, there is that shred of chance that Indonesia can play a relaxed Japan team that came out not really focused, that are playing half A team, B team, and some C team players. There's opportunity there in the last game against a team that is already qualified and relaxed. There is more of a chance Japan comes out complacent, sleepy, not taking it seriously. So this is why winning that game against China is so important for Indonesia, because one, it guarantees you the playoff position, but two, you have a good chance at playing a weaker Japan team and potentially pull off a massive win. It'll be hard. Even with a sleepy Japan, it'll be hard, but potentially pull off a massive away win and maybe put yourself in a real position to automatically qualify. That can happen for Indonesia. So big game for Indonesia against Japan. Japan, I don't know how Moriyasu and with his team, I just don't know how serious they'll be taking these games. I'm just not sure, because a lot of Japanese players are all coming from Europe after these long seasons. Mitoma, Kubo, all those guys. How seriously do they want to take it? You know what I mean? So Indonesia, there is opportunity here. Just don't mess it up against China. And then China versus Bahrain, like I broke it down before. Bahrain and China, they are looking at this game against each other, and that's giving them the extra motivation to try whatever they can and try to win those games against Saudi and Indonesia, or at least draw or do something, get a result. Because if they do so, if Bahrain beats Saudi, if China beats Indonesia, you're looking at two teams that will be fighting basically for a playoff position here. A playoff position. Destiny in their hands. They control who they control. It wouldn't depend on any other results or anything. It would depend on them winning, battling each other out. And it's gonna be great, dude. It's gonna be great. Again, Iran's qualified. I could relax and enjoy the drama. It's gonna be close, dude. It's gonna be close. You know, I love breaking these down. It's gonna suck. You know, we're after this, we're still gonna have the playoff games to break down whenever the playoff games happens. But it kind of sucks. Like, this is basically, we're wrapping up qualifying for AFC, and we won't have AFC World Cup qualifying for another year and a half, 2 years. It's gonna suck, but I'm gonna try and I'm gonna find out different ways to keep talking about the AFC and all these teams. But to wrap up Group C, man, a lot of teams here, especially I'm looking at Indonesia, Bahrain, and China, two teams, no World Cup history, haven't been to a World Cup. The chance is there. This is a real opportunity for Indonesia, Bahrain, and China in Group C to make it to their first World Cup, the biggest World Cup the biggest World Cup. Yeah, I mean, every World Cup is the biggest because the sport keeps growing and we put more money into the World Cups. But they want to be part of the next World Cup, the 48-team World Cup in North America, in the USA, the social media capital of the Hollywood, everything. They want to be there. So good luck to them. In Group B, Oman, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq. Iraq has been to a World Cup, if I'm not mistaken, but it's been decades. Jordan, Iraq, Oman, Palestine. I'll put Kuwait in there, even though I don't think they have a chance. Teams that traditionally never go to the World Cup. 2 of those 5 teams, will be going to the World Cup. So huge. And in Group A, Uzbekistan, UAE, Kyrgyzstan. 3 teams never going to World Cups. Huge opportunity. Obviously, Qatar in the last one was their first World Cup as well. Them too, they're not historically at the World Cups. 4 teams there that are traditionally never at the World Cup. 2 of them will be going along with Iran. So a lot to play for, like I said, for so many teams that usually never have this clear-cut opportunity, this tangible opportunity that they can grasp with their hands and control their own destiny and make it to the World Cup. So good luck. Good luck to your teams. For some fans this week, it's going to be happiness. It's going to be great. For some fans, it's going to be heartbreaking. It's going to suck. And then for the teams that qualify for the playoffs, their nerves will continue and they'll have to keep waiting for the future games to seal their fates. But there will be some very, very heartbreaking moments this week, and there'll be some very happy moments for some teams. So good luck, whoever you support. I'm wishing the best for you. And it's been your boy Hokage Puya. This has been the breakdown. AFC World Cup Qualifying, June 2025. Thank you for joining me. Like, subscribe, and most importantly, um, let me know your thoughts in the comments. How you think your team will do. Any key information that I may not know about your team, drop it, man. I want to keep always learning about everyone's teams in AFC. And yeah, one love, guys. It's been your boy Hokage Puya. I will see you guys for some post-match reactions for some of these games. And then, like I always do, the World Cup qualifying, AFC World Cup qualifying review, where we review everything that happens in these next two games, which I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about after they go down. It's been your boy Hokage Puya. I'll see you guys for those videos. Tune in. Peace.